What's going on here?
Oh, hey.
Well.
Welcome to the deer shop. Come on out. Let's show you something. Looks like an ordinary pickup truck. But
Wait, there's more.
there's more. There's a doe in there. Just kidding.
There's a dead 10-point buck in this truck. I think it's the buck. You remember last year when I passed the buck? I was like, it was 17 yards, and you were like, "My arrow not that?" I think that's the same deer because his tines, the way they.
Okay.
This looks pretty good.
Just so you know, I was wearing the same hat both times you killed your bucks in the snow.
Oh, right there. If you take this recording, it looks pretty.
So
The same amount of flight time as the map.
All right, guys.
3 bucks.
One day,
Same tree.
tree.
I'm so
Woo! Holy shit! Get a shot of these.
2 farms this year. Number 1 is done.
Did you say bye, Kevin?
I did. I already did. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Smoked it, buddy. Look at that. You destroyed it.
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. All right, guys, we are in the deer shop. This is episode 23, the Deer Shop podcast, and I have finally been able to get Schlau and Kasich on the podcast. We are almost halfway through the first season, and they've avoided it up until this point, and we're finally able to get them to make an appearance, and it helps because they are both tagged out on bucks, so they agreed to do this. Nick was not going to come on until he killed a buck, but Here we are, both of them tagged out. We're kind of just we're calling this one Bucks and Bullshit today. Ryan said he's afraid of swearing too much, so I'm just going to throw it right in the title. This is the Bucks and Bullshit episode.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, right. Get it out of the way right off the bat.
Fuck.
Yeah, there it is. But
Warm it up.
Yep. Both these gentlemen killed slammers this year with their bows. Drastically different. Different seasons, different styles. But both of them were just great bucks, and we ended up having some pretty nice parties in here to celebrate both those bucks. One was colder than the other, but it was a good time. It was a good season for both you guys. To break the ice a little bit, since these guys have this is their first time out here, and since they're a little bit mic shy, maybe we're gonna break the ice with just with a couple hot topics before we get into the buck talk. If you are on social media at all, and if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you obviously are, then you have heard about the C.J. Alexander, Ohio, potential state record, 230 gross, 208 net, Buckmaster buck that kind of took the world by storm when he shot it, and then he went on Hunter Podcast, and it became nationally known, I guess, at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And then just in the last couple of days, it's come out that this deer was potentially poached, and the rack was confiscated, and the whole thing is a sham, and it's just been a majorly hot topic on social media. And we've kind of followed along with it a little bit.
Yeah.
At first it was like a cool story. You know?
The rumors were running wild, and the worst thing he did was go on Hunter Podcast. And you could tell when you watched the podcast, you listened to the podcast, you could tell they were uncomfortable after a certain point even talking to him.
Yeah.
You
Because
know,
they kind of, and like I wanted to bring this up. I'm pretty sure Hunter knew what they were doing. I know they didn't seek him out, and he kind of sought them out.
Yeah.
And maybe he was he wanted to start his own like publicity type thing, kind of get known in the outdoor space maybe. But you could tell in the podcast that they might have even had some doubts before going in.
Yeah.
Because they were like, they obviously had a rundown of what they were going to talk about, and like just the whole story just didn't quite add up. And as they talked about it more and more and more, and they went farther down that rabbit hole, it unraveled.
There's never been anything that's happened like this where a guy shoots a deer, reaches out to the media, let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. They bring light to it. It came out uncomfortable during the original podcast. Before the pictures came out, before any more came out, it was uncomfortable. It was kind of like came up where a guy kills his wife and then he's the one that calls the ambulance.
Right.
It's kind of It kind of had that feel. Who knows what's going to happen? There's so many rumors about it. We're reading that the ODNR has the rack.
Right.
We're reading that he shot the deer on property he shouldn't be. Who knows what's going to come of it? Supposedly the ODNR is supposed to release something soon.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Being Christmas time, so today's December 26th. It's the day after Christmas. So, nothing's going to happen fast because of time of year. To me, what stood out to me with the podcast was when he shot this deer, it came out that he was, all the things that were amazing about his story is the stuff that, tore the story apart. And the most important thing to me was that there was no trail camera pictures of it. And he says he didn't know the deer existed, and a bunch of people that knew him said that he didn't know that this deer just came out of nowhere. We have no idea. We were on trail cameras, they kind of went down through there's not a deer on this planet of that size that's not known from trail cameras.
Yeah.
And then it came out later that there was a bunch of trail camera pictures and videos of it, but they were from 20 miles away and people didn't realize it was the same deer until they're probably scrolling through YouTube whoa.
Yeah.
I have that deer on camera. He disappeared on X date and we just, that don't make no sense.
The simple hunter says, you shoot a deer. I've always been in my pull off wherever that property is before the sun's come up. Mm-hmm. I've been there waiting for the sun to come up to go look for that deer.
Yeah.
And when he's saying I slept and my buddy called me and woke me up and it was 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning, Listen, I've been out there at sun up for a doe.
Yep.
Nobody sleeps like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out there the moment daylight cracks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then all the trophy pictures come out.
Yeah, they're all in the middle of the night.
They're all dark
with a cell phone.
And
not a good cell phone. They just weren't. They weren't high quality trail camera or trophy pictures. They were just kind of thrown together. Hastily. There was no posing. There was no, here's my bow, here's the buck. If you shoot deer of that caliber, there's people going to be offering to come take pictures. Photographers are going to offer just so they can have it in their portfolio,
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what comes out. But I think ever since the Hunter podcast, there's been a lot of people speculating.
Yeah,
with the story.
I don't think So obviously, the deer of that size eventually. Let's just take the Hunter podcast out of it. Eventually, all this stuff might come out. But when you go on a podcast like that, you are opening yourself up for everything that comes with, hey, look, I shot a world record buck, and here's my 3-hour podcast. Once you open that door, people are going to pry.
Oh, yeah.
If you would have just shot that deer, a couple pictures here and there, got measured by, Buckeye Big Buck Club or Buck Masters, and they certified it as a world record, he put it on his wall, and then occasionally made some posts on social media, I don't think anyone would have... It might have came out eventually that people are I had pictures of deer 20 miles away. It's not adding up. But the fact that he went on and kind of bragged on himself, opened the door and people were all right, gloves are off. Here's what I have. And he's presented to the DNR. And he has a bunch of people in his corner too. There's been a bunch of people that have been backing him up per se. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
Supposedly I saw today that a lot of those people are that they removed all their posts. They're
there's missing social
arms
media
are being
posts.
spread and people are pushing away from the situation.
And everyone wanted to get involved.
That's a red light.
Everyone wanted to get involved right away because it's a world record. So all the normal, if you're from Ohio, there's names you're going to see on social media of guys that either measure deer or deer collectors or local type celebrity people. They were all on it right away. Oh yeah, this guy shot. And I want to get some pictures. And then now they're scrubbing.
If either one of you called me at dark and said, hey, I shot a 190, because that's what he thought it was.
Yeah.
I shot a 190. Can we look tomorrow? I would say, okay, that sounds like a good deal.
I'm sleeping over your house tonight.
And you know what?
You just came out in a blizzard to help him look for a 150 that you already knew was dead.
Didn't matter.
You already knew it was dead.
And if I walked into your house and you two fuckers were sleeping, I would drag you out and say, it's almost daylight. Let's go.
And I would hope you would.
I mean, we have all had in the last 2 or 3 years. For me, it's been about 6 years for me. But we've all had those nights where the next, we wounded a buck and we're going in the morning and it's just it's just the worst. I've had it. It's just the worst. There's no way that I would be able to just
You can't
be
sleep till 10 in the morning.
laissez-faire about it. No. If it was a deer of that caliber, like, that's just crazy. And if deer hunting wasn't that big of a deal to him, then maybe I can see it. Like, I got buddies that hunt just because they like to hunt and they don't care that much. But this guy he likes hunting so much that he went on a podcast to talk about it. So it's not like.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But this story, it can turn financially different for him.
Well, and here's something that I haven't seen talked about. There's been a bunch of big deer killed in Ohio this year, like every year, but like there is another deer that was locally killed that that netted over 200 typical that has been flying under the radar. And this guy, I don't know him. He's closer to us than the one we're talking about, the Alexander buck. But I'm wondering if he's waiting for the clouds, everything to settle, and then he'll be like, oh, by the way, I actually have the new state record archery typical buck. Because there's two. There's another deer, and there's no controversy on the second one. It's just he's been quieter about it, and there's a couple posts I've seen about the deer, but I'm surprised. If I was him, I would wait. Like, this is not the time to get involved with them. You can wait 2 years. They don't even enter them for 2 years, I don't think. So, like, even though the 60-day dry, they don't actually, like, have the ceremony and do the new world record or state record for a couple years after it gets killed. So
lottery winners don't usually stand up and say, hey, I won the lottery 2 days ago
in the speedway.
Look at me.
No.
I mean, you hear the people that truly won. You usually wait and they want to be anonymous.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Yep.
You don't usually show your hand right off the rip.
No.
You don't reach out to people right off the rip.
Well, you got to lawyer up. You got to get
there's
your
so
shit
many steps
figured out. And if you kill a 200-inch typical buck, you do need to have some good documentation going on. Make sure that you talk to the ODNR straight up front, and then even maybe get a lawyer just for simple facts of because the Milo Hansen Mitch Rumpala story, which is the world's most famous. The Mitch Rumpala story is the world's most famous example of what we're talking about now. Was it real? Was it not? And it ended up not being entered into the books, but he was, if you believe the stories, approached and sued by the guy that held the world record for even making statements about my buck might be a world record. So you gotta start being careful when it comes to that kind of thing.
The Rumpala buck, that whole story
it's still going.
It's recirculating. In the last 4 months, it's came back to surface. Everybody's talking about it.
It's crazy to me. I follow two groups on Facebook. One is Mitch Rumpala skeptics, and one's Mitch Rumpala the truth or believers or something.
Bigfoot Facebook
pages. They're literally two separate groups, and I'm in both of them on Facebook. And there's thousands of grown men talking about a guy's buck that got shot in 1997 still to this day. They're still talking about this deer every day and accusing each other of it's real, it's fake, fuck you,
he didn't get a fucking x-ray.
Yeah, it's ridiculous what we do for bucks. So
it's crazy.
I think Hunter was smart for having him on. There's a lot of people who say Hunter is stupid for having him on, and there's a lot of people who are also not happy about the slate of guys that Hunter has been interviewing, but I think they're just incredibly smart.
Oh yeah,
because they've all listened to all these people that are hating about it.
It was
are a metric. They have listened already and watched. So
not only did they have Alexander on the podcast, right, they followed up the next week with the Ohio Wildlife Chairman.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. And they followed up the week after that with Chris Brackett.
Yeah, I mean, so you take all the stuff going on with Alexander,
right,
and then boom, Wildlife Chairman,
right.
It was calculated. I think they felt it. I think it had the vibe of awkwardness during the story.
Yeah. And they have good you can say what you want about Hunter guys, and we have certainly said what we feel about them personally, just back and forth. But they know what they're doing, and they are connected. Oh, yeah. They are connected just as good as almost anyone that's not named Steve Rinella. They're probably about as connected as that. Yep. And look, take Steve Rinella or Joe Rogan. If Joe Biden said, "I want to come on your podcast," they're going to do it.
Yeah.
They are going to do it. No matter what, because you can't turn that down. And I've had people tell me, well, I want to interview those guys because they're this and they're that. I'm like, just because you give them a platform to speak on doesn't mean you, feel
Let's hear what he has to
How many
say.
guys do we have come?
You're going to listen anyways.
How many guys are in our group that sit here in the podcast and shoot crossbows? You know what I mean? It's.
I tell you're a fucking idiot 3 times a week.
Yeah, 3, more like 100.
So
keep the C word out of
it. Yeah. So it's just I don't understand the thought process of they had CJ Alexander on, they must be poachers too. That's not the case at all.
I think if anything, they brought it to light more.
Yeah,
like everybody listened to that podcast. Everybody took that podcast and what they got from it. They looked at the trophy pictures and were like, "You're telling me you found that deer by noon, and all your trophy pics are at night, and the deer's completely pliable."
Yeah, it's one of those
weird.
things where it's just it does not add up. And there's there's the internet detectives everywhere, and they're going to find not that they're going to find any information, but they are going to give their opinion, state their facts, pull stuff from your post history, like the whole 9 yards. So you just got to be careful with that. But so that was a good icebreaker. It's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
It's not so bad. It's not so bad. We're here to talk with these two guys about their deer seasons and their bucks. They both did well. Ryan killed a 160 and change, and Nick killed a 151 and change, and just two beautiful bucks, drastically different, like I said in the intro. We're going to start with Ryan, Mr. Automatic. You've killed a buck, and that's what we call him here in the shop because he just is. You've killed a mature buck 6 years in a row now with your bow?
Yep.
6 years in a row, archery equipment. He doesn't film for us, and we'll never get him to, so you won't be able to see any of this stuff.
Bare bones.
But we will do recoveries every once in a while. And most of his recoveries have either been on the show or he brings the buck here and we hang out, like everyone else. But
this year was I watched him die.
So this year, when during that time period, early October, mid-October, the last I talked to you individually about your hunting, you were not that thrilled about it.
No.
You were not happy with what you had on camera. Your properties that you spent a lot of time hunting have become real crowded in the last couple of years. People kind of got word and wind, and the neighborhood's encroaching on.
100%.
Ryan hunts a property that is really close to a property that Nick hunts, one of their farms, and they're not very far from each other, so they get some bleed over with some deer every once in a while and stuff. And in that area of the county, I should say, has just been kind of depleted the last 2 years. You've killed plenty of good bucks in that area, but this year it just wasn't really happening.
It's been a bad year for everybody, I feel like, especially in that area.
Oh,
over
Nick,
there.
Yeah, Nick can tell you.
The area got smoked. I mean, between what Ryan was doing over there and no fault to the neighbors.
Yeah, because these are all permission pieces.
They don't understand what we do for deer hunting. They don't understand the work. They don't understand how you feel about it. So they just think of it as, oh well, there's a guy that killed a few good bucks back there, and then all the buddies show up.
Yeah, and I look at my field and I see 35 every night. There's plenty of deer. Yeah.
That was my problem.
Yeah, and your problem was that your spot is accessible,
and it was 6 different guys in one night.
Yeah,
so I decided to pull out of that spot and go to Plan B,
and it worked.
And Plan B was empty.
Well,
but
Plan B
except for
empty.
one picture.
Except for one, and I have a video.
He got one. So Ryan doesn't run now. You have one now, though, right?
I do now. This year was my first time
ever running a cell cam.
Ever.
Ryan was anti-cell cam, and
he got 3 SD card cams.
Yeah, he would run the old school SD Brownings, right? You're a Browning guy.
Oh, yeah.
2 of them.
And he would
only 2.
Yeah, and he would
I got
just
one on one other property.
Pull cards and check things out, and he was not like me and Nick, who every night we're just on our phones, just going through the cell cam game. That's not how Ryan hunts. Ryan has killed deer hunting on the ground before, a couple times, at least one. Well, at least one. The
biggest one was on the ground.
On the ground, just he doesn't overthink it. Me and Nick probably Nick the most, and then me second. As far when it comes to overthinking everything, because Ryan keeps it very simple. And he's killed bucks 6 years in a row, and me and you have had a couple gaps in that.
Oh, yeah. That's all right.
And me and Nick resort to the gun hunting, and Ryan's just out there just whacking them. But
I'm a stick and stringer.
You got one video of the buck that you killed this year, visiting a scrape, right?
Yes.
Like a week or two.
1 week. 1 week exactly the date that I killed.
Just hitting this licking branch. So that was like your really only indication this deer was in the air. And did you think he was as big as he was from the video?
Absolutely not.
No. He looked like maybe
this
mid-40s.
This is the guy I go to. This is the guy I go to with all my videos right off the bat.
He was like, at first,
I'm like this. All right,
we have a bad year of guessing scores on deer,
but
that's okay.
But you look
but
at
it's going well.
You look at his deer and it's so like the mass wasn't there. And it's like okay, mid-40s maybe, but you only get one video.
Yeah, compared to what I had, I didn't have anything.
You killed a buck 3 years ago, I think it was 2020. I want to say that appeared a lot bigger than it actually scored. The 140, the 151 or 153.
Yeah, that was 20. Yep.
To me, that deer from the trail camera pictures, and there was other guys that had trail camera pictures of it, and like when we went and drug it out of the woods, that was all on video. And that was actually a really fun night. It looked massive to me, like 160 all day, and it scored less.
Yeah.
And then this year, the deer that we're talking about now, when I first saw it in the back of the truck, I was like, holy crap, that thing's huge.
Yeah.
But I never got to see the trail camera video prior, so.
Yeah. I mean, he got one. I mean, you could tell. Like, I mean, if I got that video, I'd be like, shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what he told me.
But
Yeah,
a one-off
like, shoot,
video.
yeah,
That was it. That was it.
A
He's the only
one-off
video I
video
ever
is
had
tough
once
because
besides.
how many deer have we only had on camera one time? You can't make
so
a
many.
plan. You can't put it on the radar and start spending time, money, and resources off of one trail camera video.
If I get one picture, I'm not even paying attention.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh, hey, check this buck out, and then I'm
Yeah,
done.
right.
Second time, pay attention.
Yeah,
to it.
Yep,
exactly.
Yep. And it was pre-rut,
It
and
was-
then you just had a hunch. You're like,
It was a stroke of luck.
You just
And
went,
I went out. It was October 29th, and it was a rainy Sunday.
It was warm, I think, too.
It was warmer, yeah.
yeah, I don't remember it being cold.
And I hadn't put bait out in this spot, and I walked back there in my Crocs, and my khaki pants, and my camo Carhartt hoodie.
Oh man,
And I was like, I'm gonna put some apples back here. So I brought my bow with me. I put the apples back there. I'm like, well, I might as well just sit in the stand. I already had a set up in the tree. The rest is history. I had a spike come in and a doe come in, and I was focused on them with my binoculars, and I saw a third deer coming from my left, and I waited because I didn't want to move. And he came in. He just walked right past them, right past the apples, stopped, and I didn't have an arrow knocked or nothing.
oh my god.
And I'm like, oh shoot, that's that same buck from last week. So I knocked an arrow, grabbed it at 33 yards.
160 inch,
He went about
10 point with junk, right?
I
what,
couldn't
40,
buy
50
that.
yards?
yeah, right.
40, 50 yards?
Yeah, he barely went.
Tyler Gullett could if he went to Indiana, he could buy it, but
Yeah. Him and all his buddies.
Shout
had
out
that-
Tyler Gullett.
Yeah, shout out Tyler. Yeah.
they would be able to buy it. But
Yeah.
around here, there's
No.
just nothing. Like,
we don't.
when do 160s just walk into your life like that? And like we say 160s, like score really doesn't matter. It's just a good way of saying like when does a huge buck like that walk into your life?
when does a
Like,
deer older than 2?
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, this year
It was a bad year for me.
actually. I had one do that this year, and then I messed it up and missed. But-
3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah. So it actually does happen every once in a while, but
Mm.
it didn't go so well for me, but it went really good for Ryan. And like this is a yearly thing for Ryan. He just, I mean, you've killed what's the latest you killed? You did kill one in the snow the one year.
I believe it
Like-
was February 4th. It was a Thursday.
Yeah, there was one really late
21?
one.
It was,
No.
Yeah,
Something like 20 or 20.
Yeah, it was
I'm not sure.
it was super late.
Yeah.
It was like
It was the Thursday before the end of bow season. Yeah.
But other than that, it's like second, third week of October. Ryan
I've
kills.
had-
I mean, it just.
Every month besides December.
And you killed the one on November 3rd or 2nd or 3rd, somewhere around there.
Yeah, the 151.
Yeah, the
Yep.
151 was. I remember that because that was a beautiful night, cold,
It
like
was
perfect
awesome.
conditions, just awesome. I just remember it was so cold that night.
like it was that night that started off kind of warm, like not cold, but
Yeah.
not warm either. But it was just like a normal night, and then all of a sudden you got to that last half an hour, and the temperature was just like
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah.
And it was cold, crisp, and quiet.
Let
Like,
it be known
still.
that I always ask him what I should do.
Yeah,
And he always tells me, don't do this. It's stupid. And I do it anyways.
yeah. And then he
Yeah,
kills.
And that's when I do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that
That was a
Yeah.
deer that you weren't too 100% sure about the blood trail
I
on
had
that
him.
deer.
Yeah, well, that deer was weird because I had him all summer. And I
Yeah.
had him up to a week before
So
season.
did Alex. Our buddy
Exactly.
Alex has been on the shot. He's been on here at least 4 or 5 times on the
Bert.
podcast.
Bert was the deer's name.
Yeah, and
Bert.
Alex. That story's awesome because
We should have had Alex.
I kind of threw it out. He knew that we were podcasting. I think.
I can't believe I can't believe he didn't come.
Maybe I didn't put it in the right chat. It's hard to keep everything together. But regardless, he was after that deer, and when he showed up, somehow we were all together. Or no, he called me or something
He sent you a
while
trail
I
camera
was
picture,
driving
yeah.
to your house. Like, hey, this buck showed up, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm going to make a big play for it this week. I might even take some time off work or something. And I'm like, I get to Ryan's house. I'm like, should I tell Alex that we're going to track this buck?
No, you showed me. You're like, is this the deer you shot? And I said, yes, it is.
So then we had to call. Alex actually came over here afterwards, and it's just that's the problem with hunting. We talked about a little bit on the last podcast with Gavin from Wild Time, but we're all kind of stacked on top of each other, and there's not enough mature bucks to go around.
No.
Like we, if you have, like, and we used the same example last week on the podcast, you have 640 square acre block, like these blocks around here, they're all square mile. You got 5 to 7 mature bucks in there, and out of those 5 to 7 mature bucks, there's probably like 3 to 4, 3 to 5 that you want to kill, and there's 49 dudes hunting.
Oh,
exactly.
There's 49 dudes hunting those 5 bucks that you want to kill.
That's how it is now.
And I wish I had Mark Zachis as a neighbor, because
his neighbors are the most successful.
Shout out Mark Zachis.
Oh, shout out Mark Zachis.
If he listens to this podcast, he'll never admit it.
He's too busy.
Yeah.
He's on vacation.
Mark doesn't care if it's 3, if it's 2.5.
As long as it's
12.
Until this year, as long as it was over 130 inches, he's shooting. He took it down to 102 inches this year.
Yeah.
But
So like if my neighbors are like Mark Zachis, I'm kind of happy, because, I mean, this year was my best year for mature bucks on camera going into the season. I've never had a summer like this.
And we went into this summer, and that's what we're going to get into next. But we went into the summer doomed.
Oh,
we thought you were fucked.
Yeah.
Like, we thought you, because we knew you were doing work on your own private farm. Like, the farm that you actually own was getting destroyed. Planting pine trees, clearing a spot for a house. Like,
we destroyed it.
Destroyed it. So, like, so screwed. And then here we are. But
yeah.
So that's another thing that I think we've talked about on the podcast before. Like, is you don't want young bucks to get killed, but if your neighbor shoots a 2 or 3 year old, or a spike.
For that year, you're happy.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
like,
because
yes.
you are just happy because that buck
100%.
might have ended up being the next 170, but you'll never know now. And then he's out of the way.
Yeah,
I kind of got lucky this year here at the home farm. Some of my neighbors around me, they all tagged out kind of early on deer, and they didn't kill any of the giants, and they couldn't kill another buck. So I kind of had free reign for a while. I guess we can just segue straight into Nick's season. Nick had a real rough 2022. It started good. So we're backing up 2 seasons. It started really good, had a lot of great hunts. You had shooter bucks on different farms in different areas, so you had variety.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, they all just started falling, disappearing and dying. Like, it was
either dead
wasteland.
Either dead or gone.
Dead or gone. But you did end up killing late season.
Yep.
A buck that we kind of knew about but didn't really spend much time on, and then, like, the time was right. The timing was right. And you just went in there. You were able to kill him, like, the 3rd or 4th try. Late season in the snow. Like, it was he was able to get it done late, and we killed a whole bunch of deer in like a 2-week period here. Like, Isaac and Ethan also killed, and I think Dylan killed kind of late last year too, didn't he?
No, you guys were.
Oh, we were gone. We were in deer.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
So
Dylan was a little bit earlier, but there was 3 late season bucks. So then going into this year, with everything that went down, and you were down to your last card last year. Like, if that buck was gone, then there was nothing left.
Yeah,
and
it
you
was
were
toast.
Good. So
toast.
We go into this year, and we do a lot of hunting together and, like, helping each other's farm stuff. And we didn't know what the hit list was going to look like, because we knew your farm was pretty much out with all the work you were going to do. Like, there might be some deer that show up there, but it isn't even pretty much out. Your other farms, they were barren wasteland last year, so going into this spring, we were kind of worried. Yep. Don't know what it was. Don't know if it was neighboring pressure, crop rotation. The crop rotation was really good on your farm, but the bucks showed up.
Oh, they showed up.
The
big
bucks
time.
showed up.
And, I mean, obviously the hit lister, when he showed up, like, I called it super early. Yeah. Like, he had his beam starting and brow starting, and I'm like, this is him from last year.
So there was a buck that Nick was hunting in 22 that disappeared gun season, first day gun season. He just disappeared, and we never had him on camera again. And you have to assume they're dead at that point.
Oh,
like, you have to assume that they're dead at that point. Fast forward to July, like right around the 4th of July, when deer start looking like deer, maybe late June, July, he started showing up at that mineral lick, and Nick instantly was calling it. And we weren't quite ready to call it that, but then as the summer progressed, it was undoubtedly, we call him the zoo buck. He was back again. What a dream, you know what I mean? What a dream. And he was back, but he brought friends with him. Yeah, I mean, there was the mature bucks on that farm were just out of control.
Yep. And, like, when he, from the first picture, and I thought it was him, I was like, this is him. And we kept watching him grow, and I'm like, then you start getting excited because all last year he was a homebody.
Yeah, we had
you knew the
evidence.
chance was going to be there.
We knew the spots he used last
Yeah.
year, the trails he liked to use, where he was bedding, the food sources. Like, we had the rubric, we had the layout, the blueprint was there, and it almost worked. You know, rolling into the season, you had all these hit listers, and it was early October. You did a lot of hunting, a lot of different sits. Me and Ryan like kind of traded off doing some filming and stuff, and he didn't make any appearances, but a lot of the other bucks did. And you almost made some decisions early. Didn't you have a couple bucks in range that you were like,
Yeah. I mean, I'm the guy that when you have your mindset, it's just like, okay, I don't care what you are, you're living, even though you're nice.
Let's pick out the elephant in the room about how when Nick actually hunts.
Yeah, Nick.
I hate mornings.
He hates mornings, and
Evenings
he relies too much. In my opinion, he relies too much on what cams have been doing recently, which is the
Exactly.
exact opposite of what.
No.
Exactly.
You know, Mr. Automatic over here killed a deer that he got one picture of, and Nick has 43,000 pictures. Of this
He's a
buck.
fair weather hunter.
Well, no, in fairness,
Not fair weather, but
I love the foul weather, but even in fairness, even after he was shot, I kept hunting. Like,
yeah, you did. You did.
Like,
Well,
I
we're definitely going to get into this.
I didn't stop.
We're definitely going to get into this, but
yeah, the trail cameras help you. They
do, but they hurt you too.
Oh,
they fucked me this year hard.
So
fucked me hard.
like
this
looking
year.
back on it, my biggest regret was early season. He was daylighting for whatever reason on the weekends in the morning.
Yeah,
Every day.
Well, and I think as he was spending time during the weeks on some of these neighboring properties, and then on the weekends, those assholes go back there with their chainsaws and their log splitters and do their stuff, and it just forces them out a little bit.
It would be 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Boom, there he is.
Yep.
But for me, I'm looking at I'm not going to go in there in the morning early season, October 9th.
I also hate hunting mornings, for the record, and I
Listen,
do a lot of it.
You
But
guys know late beans are deadly.
yeah.
Late
But-
green beans are deadly.
So the evenings I would be there. But looking back on it, my biggest regret was opening day. I knew where he would be.
Yeah.
We had a northwest wind. Ultimately went to the setup that I killed on.
Yeah.
But I should have just done a simple hang and bang off the corner in that field,
Yep.
and he would have been toast. But I didn't. Instead, you were with me.
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting in the setup. I ended up killing him, and he was daylight.
Yep. Like
At
major daylight.
Major daylight. 45 minutes before dark, just standing there, right in the middle of the field, totally killable. That's my biggest regret is playing it too safe during the early season. So
Yeah, and I almost wish I should turn my trail cameras, and this goes against what cell cams should be used for, but like I should almost just do like the batch update thing where I get the trail camera, the pictures come in at like 10 p.m. every night. That way, because like I microanalyze. Like if you know the deer is around, you might as well just get in the woods and hunt the right winds and just forget about. Well, you know he's on this side of the farm today, and like I chased my tail all year round and ended up not getting the opportunity I wanted to because I was chasing my tail on where the trail camera picture is past information. Even though it's in real time, when he walks by that camera, that's in the past. He's already going somewhere else. So you can't like, oh, well, he's in that area,
you did yourself in when you got 2 pictures and you had to go hang up 2 extra stands for no reason.
Oh, I didn't have a stand back there, though.
Yeah, but what did it do you? Nothing.
It did. It screwed me in the long run.
nothing.
It did screw me.
Did you nothing.
It screwed me. Sometimes hanging and banging can get you. But
sometimes the hanging and banging can
yeah,
really
it's,
produce.
It's
Oh, yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
It's 50-50.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
October 16th is when this buck was injured. The zoo buck got injured on October 16th. You were hunting. Our buddy Tyler was hunting. He was in a new spot that you just set up that day.
For him.
There was another buck that was very killable that had been using that area, and he was a really good deer. We were putting Tyler there. You were putting Tyler there, like almost guaranteeing an opportunity at that buck.
Yeah.
And that buck did come out.
Oh, yeah, first one.
But didn't come out in range. It skirted him. And then Nick's only hunting, you were like probably only 125 yards away, 150, maybe a little bit more. But you could see.
I couldn't see it, but probably.
But you could see where he was you could see the area he was hunting.
Yeah, probably. I was probably 225 from Tyler. And
Yeah.
technically, Tyler was actually downwind of me.
Yeah.
For that night. And my thought process was when Tyler said he wanted to hunt, well, I'm going to put you in a hot seat for the 9-point.
Yeah.
Mature
Yep,
9-point.
the 9.
I like 140 plus 9-point.
Yeah.
Put you in the hot seat. 5-year-old, perfect deer. Tyler texts me and that night was like 30-mile-an-hour winds. It was
insane. That was a theme all year. It was just windy every day.
It was insane.
Every day was windy.
And I set Tyler up. We get him brushed in, and I go get my stand, and it was probably like 5:30. Tyler texts me. I seen him. He hit a scrape, but he's coming towards you, and I'm like, I'm watching. I don't see any deer coming. And probably about 15 minutes later, I could smell a buck. Like I could smell him, and that morning I got a picture in the daylight of the buck, the number 1, going into a specific bedding area, and I was just set up just downwind of it.
Yeah.
Well, he had come. My thought is the buck I could smell was him.
Yeah.
So thick I couldn't see him, but he was less than 100 yards from me. And he circled down and went to an area that in the previous year he was smoking a scrape.
Yeah.
He had gone behind it, and I never had did in the past, but this year there was a camera there. He had smoked the scrape after the 9-point, and then fed up, worked his way up to Tyler, hit another scrape.
Yeah.
And
20 yards from Tyler, he was hitting a scrape without a shot at that point.
Yeah, without a shot. And then the whole Tyler deal happened. Tyler shot. Obviously, we couldn't.
Tyler shot and hit him.
Yep.
We're not sure where exactly because there's no video, and it was just like the situation just didn't work out to where he thought he hit him like high in the back, like far back high, so like above the back leg, maybe a little bit more towards the center of the body, but we had no way of really knowing. And once again, this has been a theme too. We were getting fucked by the weather.
Oh,
there was a
nasty.
massive thunderstorm coming in, like 2 inches of rain type of thunderstorm coming in within the next like hour. So like, fuck, you know.
Oh,
so
worst case scenario.
we went. Ryan grabbed his thermal. We went and searched for blood, and we followed it 386 yards or something, straight line,
which
like on a trail, but like straight line.
Tyler had called the local dog.
Yes.
And he told us to go after
him. He's like, I can't be there now. Rain's coming. He's like, go in, get a last known spot, and then we'll go from there in the morning. Yep. And so that was that's what the dog guy said to do. Our other option was to not do anything, just let the rain just dump on us all night, and that would have sucked. And the thing that I remember the most about that track job is very predictable where he ran. Didn't want to go uphill very much. We found out later why. And then I thought for sure we were going to find him when we smelled him. Remember when we smelled a deer on the top up there? Like, I thought for sure we were going to find him. Didn't. Dog came in the next day. Did about a 4 or 5 hour search with the dog. Did multiple runs. If you've ever had a dog be involved with tracking, like they're going to do multiple runs. And he kept going. There was 2 defined paths that he kept doing. And my thought was the one path I think was his entry in reverse, and then the other path was probably his wounded one. He probably ended up going south.
Yeah, which makes sense now.
22 days go by with no trail camera pictures. Obviously thinking that it's like and like this is something I even forgot to put in my notes. Smelled a dead deer. 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And we all went in. Us 3 went in.
Because I was filming, you were filming. Yeah, we smelt it.
Us 3 went in. That you smelled it twice while hunting. So like you're like, we got to go in the next day, and like 2 different times you smelled it while hunting, and then you're like, so we gotta make a search. We're gonna go find this deer basically and end the story. Found a dead buck that was similar, but not it.
Yeah. In the bedding area that he was using.
Yes, known bedding area.
Yeah,
he was using.
Known bedding area. In the bedding area, a good buck.
Yeah, I mean, a 3-year-old stud. So like a 130, probably like a high 120s, low 130s stud future monster with a drop beam. He had the old drop, just a beautiful deer. Dead.
Boom.
I gotta go with that head, by the way. It's probably about ready to pull off.
Yeah, I've been
close. Yeah.
I've been waiting for the stench to fall off. Man, that was a smelly bastard.
Yeah, and he was full of maggots. He'd been dead a little while, so it was not the buck that we were in there hunting.
He was in a Deer Camp Chronicles episode.
Yeah, there was. We show it in the it does get shown. 22 days goes by. while this is happening, Nick is having bow nightmare overload.
Actually, I didn't have my overload yet.
Well, you were the bow. I guess the bow didn't blow up yet, right?
No,
it had.
It
in the preseason, it had blown up.
It blew up the very first time I drew it back.
Yeah,
brand new bow. And
you won that at a banquet, right?
In an auction.
Common Matthews 29 problems. It seems like
that kind of sucks, but
so. Then
so the 22 days, I guess I kind of got ahead of myself.
I wake up in the morning, I'm like, holy fuck, it's a ghost.
Yeah,
couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. There he is, alive, looking right at my camera, and this is a deer that almost despised cameras all year.
Yeah,
like he'd give me the shittiest angles.
As he got older, he hated being on trail. He just was uncomfortable around trail cameras. You could tell.
When he was 3 and 4, he didn't give a shit. No. He just stand there and
shed from his 3 years somewhere.
He loved it. Then this year, he'd just give the shit. He'd know the camera's there. He'd go in front of it, give you the shittiest picture angle. I mean, I waited all summer for a good angle.
Yeah, we didn't get.
I would get him almost every day, but it would be the background, shittiest picture in the world.
Too close or background. Like he never just stood in front of the trail camera and looked at it.
Angling away.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and it's one picture, one video of him walking directly towards the camera.
Yep.
Walking directly to it.
And we couldn't tell from that set of pictures at that eventually we got the videos, but we couldn't tell from the pictures where he was hit and wounded.
Yeah,
we knew he was obviously hit and wounded, and he looked kind of skinny, but like there he is, alive 3 weeks later. So that kind of changed everything. But then unfortunately the story is still going because it ended up looking like he had a major wound on his leg.
Yep.
So we're thinking that like there was a leg shot and there was some massive swelling. You got him on camera one other time after this.
Black Friday,
right? For Ohio, that's right before gun season, and he hasn't been on camera since. So, we're assuming once again that he's dead, either infection or, if someone was doing a deer drive in the area and it'd be a pretty easy kill because he was limping bad. Like he was getting the infection's going to be bad. It's warm right now, which is another major problem. It's not cold, so. We're assuming that he is dead, even though he survived the initial shot. So we'll do a big peruse during shed hunting season. But that story is, for once again, 2 years in a row, we're going to close the book on that and just maybe hope he shows up next year. But in the meantime, some more deer showed up.
Yeah, we got lucky.
You had a larger, I don't know what we would call these deer, but there was like the 9, the 7x6. There's a different 9, a 7x6.
Yeah, those
were
the
one you ended up killing showed up.
Yeah, the main 9 that I put Tyler on, vanished.
Yeah,
I mean,
after
that night, that deer wasn't around when Tyler shot. After that night, I got pictures of him one other time.
Yeah.
It was probably like around November 9th or so.
Very strange.
And boom, he was off the map.
Because he was a daily deer.
And it was
daily.
Yeah, and it was weird because he had his zone, and then the number 1 had his zone.
Yeah, they didn't. We never got pictures of them hanging out together ever.
They set their areas, and where the number 1
was, avoided each other,
and the number 2 was, all other bucks stayed away.
Yeah.
And the moment the number 1 was wounded and he left, I would say within 3 days, I noticed, boom, uptick in pictures.
Yep.
Same with number 2. It was like an uptick in pictures. He was gone.
Territory was open.
Yeah, it was like
someone left the gate open, and the deer were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it was wide open. It's just like a guy leave his wife at a bar, and a bunch of sharks are swimming around.
She's been here alone 3 days in a row.
Yeah, someone's taking her.
Yeah, right.
So then I had a 9 show up and a 7x6 show up.
Yeah,
and the 9 never daylighted for me. Me and him, he was out with me. He filmed a really nice 8-point, really nice. Decided to pass him.
Yeah,
about 18 yards.
Yeah, I almost started to regret it. Yeah, but
that's flyer 8, right?
Yeah,
flyer
8. Which I'm banking on him becoming a stud.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got everything
he was
wants.
Nice.
He's not wide, but he's tall and heavy.
Oh yeah,
during the rut he was
junk.
nice.
Tall and heavy with junk. It's a good deer for next year.
Yeah.
After the rut, he was not so nice.
Yeah,
you could tell his age after.
Yeah.
So he strolled through, we passed him, and then the 7x6 showed up.
Random deer. Completely random deer.
Yeah, completely random deer.
I mean, he's a deer we might have on camera from years ago,
Yeah.
like when he was like 1 or 2 or 3, and just like don't recognize.
And he came in and got to full draw on him, and he started working too far. I was spun around a tree, and the moment I went to go let down, boom, bow blows up again. So and it was like he came out in that
Shout
field.
out Matthews.
No. So
Team Hoyt.
he kind of gets a little skittish, prances off, whatever. I'm just in like disbelief. Second time bow's blown up, full draw. This one I actually went to back it down and it grenaded. Like I probably got it 3 inches down out of the cycle and it popped. I took the blame for it as a derail. Who knows what the deal is?
I still feel like it shouldn't have happened, but
I mean, in 17 years of shooting a bow,
Yeah.
I've never once had this problem. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Maybe me, maybe the bow. Either way, it happened. So it was just like heart sinking,
Yeah.
like you hunt all that time for a buck to shoot, and it's like pass deer, and my biggest pet peeve is guys that preach passing deer, and then they shoot a deer that they say they would pass. That's
Yeah.
like my biggest thing. I don't care what anybody shoots, but
Right.
don't preach it and then go against it.
yeah, Mark Zachis.
So you pass.
So
all
he
these
did
deer.
it, so we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, and then you get the opportunity, and it just goes completely fucking
Yeah.
sour. And it was
Yeah.
just like I dropped the bow.
We were in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm reading in the morning, I'm waking up in Indiana, I'm like, wait, what is, like, what?
Had
Yeah.
to talk him off the ledge.
Yeah.
Man.
So I dropped the bow down, not literally, but I've dropped my bow. I get my shit out, walk back to the truck. The night before, I got called from work. It was a beautiful fucking night. Got called into work. Got on the stand at 4:15. I had already seen 6 bucks that night. So that night was toasted. Then that happened. So then the next day, the 9-point decides to daylight morning and night.
Yep.
I don't have a bow.
Yep.
The day after,
The big one moves in.
the big one, 170 plus,
Yeah.
fucking daylighting at 4:30. I don't have a bow. I'm on my way to go buy a bow.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit.
I'm just happy that food plot got a little bit of use. So we put a food plot in this year and we expanded it.
Yeah, he walked through it.
Yeah, never hunted it. We actually, last 2 years, we've never hunted it. But the deer we've been trying to kill have at least used it in daylight.
Yeah.
Like 2 years in a row. And this big one used it. Another buddy of ours was hunting that big one. So Nick and him were both going after Dylan. So Nick and Dylan were both going after the same deer. And then a random guy ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Gun season, right?
Yeah.
Monday of gun season.
Opening day. So that was like
Just right across the street.
Yeah. So I think the bow fiasco all happened right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So then after that, it's like no bucks. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Empty. No bucks.
Yep.
You just bought another new bow.
Yep.
Set it up. No bucks.
Yeah, there was a dry period there where
Yeah.
you were kind of out of it.
Opening day, gun season, the 170 you had on camera. At that point, I had them twice that week leading up to it. Boom, dead across the road.
Yep.
So then you're like, fuck.
Your
I'm
property gets overrun in gun season.
Public land.
So there's a group of guys that have permission to hunt it, but they only gun hunt. And when gun season rolls in, it's daily, morning, night, pounded,
just
drives,
pound town.
Mosey town. I mean,
mean-
it's just getting.
Cameras are going crazy
Like,
with
I-
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like think of some girls in high school. That's how hard.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was fucking brutal what that place is. So it's not even on the radar.
Yeah, and Nick also is just a massive crybaby about gun season.
I
He just
fucking hate gun
refuses to hunt.
Just because he's terrible with a gun. He's
I hate-
absolutely god
So
awful
am
with
I,
a gun.
but I still go out.
I hate everything.
At least
gun
you try.
season is.
It's embarrassing for me, but at least I'm out there in the woods missing.
I go this. I mean, I've skipped the last few opening days. This year, I actually went on opening day just for the tradition of it.
It's almost bad for your mind because you're hearing all the shots.
Oh,
and
it
you're
fucking
just like,
sucks. You're like, okay, there he goes. There he goes.
This is the worst case scenario human being right here.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
glass is empty all the time.
Watch
Half
the last
empty.
episode.
Yeah, all the
Missed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
he called. Yeah, right.
yeah. So then we get through gun season. Still no bucks.
Yeah.
Still nothing.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty.
then-
All of us were in bad shape.
Me and
Bad
the wife are out Christmas shopping Saturday night. I think it may have even been the Saturday of gun season. No, it was Saturday after gun season. Saturday after gun season,
Yeah,
we're out Christmas
right before
shopping.
extended.
Buying my kids overpriced kids boots. Overpriced.
Girl dad.
Fucking $80 a pair for a pair of
Regardless.
toddler boots. Overpriced. And I get a picture of a buck in a video, and I'm like, man, he might be decent. It was right at last light.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. But at the time, he's a 10, so I'm like,
Yeah.
is it the one Tyler wounded?
Yeah.
Did he finally?
There was like 2 days where we thought he was back.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
using a field in a huntable location. So
yeah,
we got
and
excited.
the field was the very field he summered all summer.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh shit, is he back? But we were getting the worst picture, so it was like, okay, we're
and
getting
no head-on look, so we could see his brow tines.
Yep, getting terrible pictures. Like, shit, it makes sense. And then finally, I got a video 3 days later of him walking by, broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like, half hour before dark.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit, that's a different deer.
Yeah, that's a shooter.
That's a shooter.
Or at the time you were like shooter, and then you're like, maybe, like we don't know, not enough
Yeah.
history, but like
yeah.
give you a reason to live.
Yeah, so then I think it was the next day, Tate calls me.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I got to clean out some corn from the grain bin. Do you got anywhere over there you want it dumped?
You're like, yeah.
I was like, yeah, put it in front of this camera.
Right.
So he goes over there, and I'm thinking he's taking like 800 pounds.
Yeah.
He throws out like 100 pounds of corn.
Tate.
Yeah, he throws.
He's gonna send you a Venmo for it too.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah, he throws me out like
Request.
100 pounds of corn.
Moldy, laid outside all
yeah.
fall, like corn.
Yeah,
Cat shit in it.
So I get a couple pictures of that deer sniffing it, milling around it, and it was like, okay, go time.
Yeah. Yep.
Go time. So then we rolled into. We had some shitty weather.
You hunted an extended gun for him
Yeah, I hunted extended gun for
because
him.
there was way less pressure in extended gun.
Yeah.
Had a 3-year-old 10-point come through at 35 yards,
Yeah.
and had that 8-point we watched.
Yep.
Come through at 35 yards, and I had that 8-point in the scope. I'm like, fuck, man, we're late in the season. I should just pile drive this.
Then
dude
he'd be
right
a
now.
hypocrite.
Yeah. Then I'm thinking,
That was
well,
a nice fucking
if I
deer.
pass him with the bow,
I know.
if I passed him with the bow, why would I shoot him with a gun?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
So then I'm like, you know what? Nope, not going to shoot him. I had him at 35, 50. Then he was at like 65-ish, just standing there, quartering away, begging for it. Just begging for it.
Begging for a fucking
It's what you dream
ass
for during
shot.
gun season. And I was like, no, not going to do it. And then
It was
yeah.
the day. So the day you ended up killing your buck, which has no names. We'll probably forever just call him chocolate horns because his rack is beautifully chocolate.
Yeah.
Like dark. Yeah. We don't kill dark antler deer around here. No. But it was the day after gun season is when me and you went and hunted. We hunted before that too. With the bow. I got some. Yeah, because I got that multicolored doe.
Yeah.
So there was a couple sits there. We hunted for him. It was the day after extended gun is when you ended up killing him. We hunted a blizzard. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, there was just the weather was coming. We had to be out there. We didn't get out till late. The 3-year-old 10, who could be a very nice deer next year, he was out there already feeding when we were in the field. So we got video of him running off, and we were late, but when we were going from some warm weather to like massive snow coming and wind. So like we just had to be there. The wind was perfect. The wind was perfect for us.
Oh, it's rare you get them to daylight when the wind's perfect for you.
And we saw 25, 30 deer. It was all does at first, and then like that last, like literally like last light, bucks started pouring out, small bucks. We were actually watching a different buck.
Can we take a piss break?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I'm going to leave everything recording. It's easier just to leave it recording
All right.
and then pick it back.
We'll be right back, right after this piss break.
Piss break's over.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back. Had to take the piss break. When we do our podcast with Jay, for one, when Jay comes in and does his podcast, they're 3 hours long, and there's like 10 piss breaks.
See, I think I could.
He's an
talk,
old man,
I
isn't
think
he?
I could sit and talk.
Well, he
with
drinks
Jay.
whiskey like straight out the bottle.
That's all
Like,
right.
He drinks whiskey like you guys are.
He
drinking.
deserves it.
He does. He does.
Jay's got like a super, like his voice on the air. It's so you can listen to it for hours. Then the way he tells a story, the dude should be a fucking author.
Hey, shout out to Jay.
Harvest Moon Outdoorsman.
Harvest Moon
I would
Outdoorsman.
love to get, like, at the end of the season, if we could, or maybe even before Muzzleloader. We're all kind of busy. Isaac's not going to be around, but, like, it'd be nice to get Jay and Dylan and you, like, get in here and just have a nice little conversation about fucking whatever you want.
How
Crossbows, fucking corn piles.
Fucking the casino.
Yeah, the casino. Like,
Shout out
anything
Dylan.
you want. Isaac keeps telling me we got to start doing, like, a sports talk, but I'm like, man, I just don't know how we can incorporate that with our audience. But
Oh, we could get Freeman in here and light him
Yeah.
up. Light him up. Get him fucking
he was.
That's what we need. We need a Nick and Freeman episode.
Oh,
redemption.
Yeah, if you haven't noticed,
Well-
Nick and Freeman's board up there is mighty bear.
Well, you see, Freeman came on here really early,
Yeah,
and he was feeling good about that 106.7 last year.
yeah.
And
He thought it would be very easy to build on the success he had
he
last
learned
year.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
He learned it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, right now, I fear for a 92-inch that walks in front of him.
I don't think
fear
he'll.
for it.
I don't think he'll hunt again.
No, me.
I think he's done.
No,
I think with the Browns, like, so he only gets the weekends off with all the stuff that's happened with his family. He's got the baby stuff coming with the Browns being in the playoffs. He ain't
And
hunting. He's done.
He honestly should suck my dick for finding that first light stuff for him.
Yeah. We haven't told that story on here yet either.
He-
You went out of your way to save
Yep.
him about $1,000.
Oh yeah, I did.
So
I did.
Ryan, so Freeman, he's been on the podcast.
Not to be misconstrued.
Yeah, so Freeman, not Kasich, Freeman, been on the podcast. It was like November sometime, and he was coming back from hunting, and he had all his brand new First Light in a tote in the back of his truck, and his tailgate failed, and the tote fell out.
Fucking Dodge. Cheap
Yeah,
Dodge.
Cheap Dodge. And all his gear fell out, and then he didn't notice it until he got home, backtracked, ended up only finding the tote with no clothes.
Yep.
So then, Mr. Medina Mom's Facebook page here, Nick, got on there and found it. Like, the guy,
I whistled up the honeys, and,
Yeah,
they,
so-
and they came through.
They knew.
so
They
his
knew.
wife ratted the guy who took it. Basically, I'm not saying took it. The guy who found it, didn't his wife kind of rat him out that he found it?
Yeah,
And,
she had it. I mean, he. Did
I don't know the
he
guy,
did-
and I never met
he
the guy,
He did
so
the right
I
thing
don't-
and gave it back to Freeman, but by the sounds of it,
he didn't want to.
it was there was no search effort. Like,
Yeah.
hey, who lost this?
Right.
And
She was the admirable Medina Mom.
yeah, she was like
Facebook page.
She
lady.
had leaked to a friend, and that friend had leaked out saying, "Hey," and tagged her and was like, "Hey, didn't so and so find this on the
Yeah,
side of the road?"
yeah.
It was a roundabout way. Ryan ended up getting back.
Yep.
And I deserve to have my dick sucked by Ryan.
I mean, if you want to set that up, we can try to set it up. I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to get him on the podcast again this year during hunting season. I think he's pretty much
He's toast.
He's toast, and he's got a lot going on in his
Yeah.
life. So
Yep.
his hunting season's pretty much over. I think. Right before the pee break, we were at the point where you almost shot the buck.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
So
sorry.
like
That
we're
was
already
my
20
fault.
deer. They're in and out. It
Yep.
is snowing
And-
harder than I've ever seen it snow.
and
Complete whiteout.
ideally, I mean, everybody hates blinds. So we're
Yeah.
we're in an elevated blind that night. It was already there.
It was the only way we could have done it. Like,
it's-
we could have hunted a tree stand, but we would have been fucking miserable.
and we would have been fucked. There's no way we could have hunted a tree stand
Yeah.
there. But
Not
that
the spot.
That elevated blind we put there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And never once killed the deer out of it.
No, lots of sits, just watching deer.
Yeah, it's like-
passed lots of deer, but never.
Yeah,
never
so-
was in the play to actually kill a mature deer out of that blind.
Yeah. So my view wasn't good. Like, I didn't have a good view.
Yeah, the way you were sitting, basically, we were sitting in the blind like this, but that was him and this is me, or that's me and this is him, and you were facing. You had a good shooting angle, but the deer were coming from the left. So like
Yeah.
these windows were closed. You're facing this way. Me, on the other hand, was facing this way. I could see where the deer were coming from. He was watching the field. I was watching in the woods. It got down to the ball's dark portion of the day. Like, we were almost done, and the buck started pouring out. So that's where we
they're
left it. The spike came out, and there was a larger buck in the woods that we were concentrating on, not knowing what deer it was.
Yeah.
And then I noticed in my left eye 2 more bucks coming from behind Nick, and I was using this camera, so I had my camera and I had my binoculars resting on my camera like this as I'm trying to like look just to make sure it was the right deer. The first one, I believe, was the deer that we had bumped from there earlier in the day.
sure, yep.
A 3-year-old 10-point, like 130-inch 3-year-old 10. We've actually videotaped him a few times now this season. And then the big one was behind him. And like, it was clear to me that it was a shooter. I hadn't actually studied Nick's pictures of the deer that we were there to hunt that much because it's just been kind of busy. But I was like, that's a shooter. And then Nick basically is just like, I'm trusting you that it's a shooter. And I'm like,
I mean,
then I started getting nervous, but like, we're doing this, you know?
I had one window to shoot out of. And when that deer hit that window, it was time to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't walking by. It was
he would have been out of range and out of light. So
Yeah.
we were at the last second.
It was then or never. And I told Caleb when I was grabbing my bow, I'm trusting you that this is the right deer. And he came out, and I could tell by his frame. I could see his frame, and I could see him. I'm like, that looks like the right deer. And then, but he was side profile.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
he did look at us, but like when he was looking at us, none of us were moving because he stopped and looked at us, and I was like, my binoculars weren't up, so I'm just filming him as much as I could, and I'm like, don't move. He's looking in the blind, and then he just kept walking.
Yeah, I mean, he was a mature buck. He just checked things out, come in, and then
he probably watched you climb out of that blind at dark like the 3 days before that.
Probably,
you know,
and he probably did. He was in that field 30 minutes after dark. But that night, I told you, I'm grabbing my bow. I'm like,
he brought nothing else.
I brought nothing.
Not a book bag.
Not a light.
Nothing.
I brought a bow, and that was it. Bow and a release. That was all I brought. And I had my binos, but I wasn't going to hold my binos up and then confirm it was him.
Yeah.
Try and peek my head out and get busted. So
there's 20 deer in the field at this point too.
Yeah. So I come to full draw, and I had to stop him because he was on a dead track to enter that field.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised you did stop him, but you had to do it.
I had to.
I was afraid he was going to bolt, and he didn't.
If he
statued up.
If he was less than 30 yards, I probably wouldn't have. But I mean, when the deer's pushing,
your shot would have been better if he was still walking.
Yeah. If he was 40 plus yards, you know, like I had a tire track that was above the snow range, and that was the 40-yard mark.
Yeah.
He was beyond that.
Yeah.
My sight was at 35. Yeah. So when I held up on him, I held maybe a hair higher than normal, but probably not high enough. And as soon as I released, I remember watching that deer move so much on the release.
Yeah, he did a spin. He didn't do a duck. He did a spin.
I was like, fuck, I missed. Like, as soon as he moved, I was like, as soon as I pulled that release, he fucking moved, and I'm like, God damn, I missed.
But me, all I was doing is just making sure I kept the camera still, and I heard the perfect, like,
pretty evident
punch of, like, arrow going into skin. Now, and it wasn't where we thought it went in, but, like, I heard the arrow hit him, so I knew he had hit him, because if he would have hit the snow, it would have been silent.
Yeah, and,
you know what I mean?
And, you know, hindsight, the shooter always denies it the most.
Yeah,
at least I do.
Shooter.
I do.
Yeah.
Every time, even when I smoke him and I see the blood flying out, I'm like, fuck, I barely hit him. You know.
And then we had a problem finding blood.
Oh yeah.
So we get down and there's snow everywhere, and we were having a hard time finding blood at first. Which, if it's you shoot a deer and it sounds good, and it's snowing out, there should be a lot of blood.
Well, we were kind of searching because I'm cheap and I don't shoot a lighted knock.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't shoot a lighted knock.
Hey,
I know you've had your problems with him before, but
I
just couldn't believe he wasn't shooting. When he shot, it scared me because I didn't see the arrow. I'm like, oh my God,
they
he didn't
break
have a lighted
every
knock.
time, and you got $270 arrows, and then you shove a fucking $30 lighted knock.
That's true.
And then it's like, as soon as you shoot them, boom, they break, and those micro arrows, you got to super glue them in, and it just wastes air. So, so I went away from that. But
it sure does help with videos, though.
We really looked for maybe 3 minutes, and I found blood.
Yeah, we were just kind of in the wrong. Like, we were actually kind of in the right spot. It took him a second to really open up, but it ended up not being a problem. But there was a little bit of panic where I started circling, like, fuck, there should be blood, and I'm not finding it. But we found, and then I backtracked and found exactly where he was standing. There was blood instantly. And the reason we track so fast, and we're going to catch a lot of shit, and we do catch shit from time to time, but, like, once again, the weather was going to fuck us. It was snowing so hard. You can see it in the video. It's in the video's live right now if you want to watch it. It's the latest one on the channel. It was snowing so bad. Like,
it was pounding on us.
We got an inch in like 20 minutes on the ground. Like, it was snowing.
Yeah. I mean, it was. We heard the hit. We thought we heard him crash when he ran away.
And we did. It ended up being true that he did crash.
Yeah. So
we might have heard him when he hit that one log, but he only went another 30 yards.
Yeah. When we say we found blood, we found sprayed blood 6 foot wide.
Nick severed his carotid arteries.
Yeah.
On both sides.
And it was already covered with snow, and you could barely see it with the light. You're stepping on it to get it to come through the blood.
Your footprint would be completely red.
So and it wasn't stopping. So we were like, fuck it, let's go. What's the worst that's going to happen?
We did kind of lose it for a second. He went into a creek, and then for whatever reason, he stopped bleeding towards the end. He might have just ran out of blood circulating at that point, because he literally stopped bleeding until he crashed, and then he leaked out. But there was a period where there wasn't much blood at all at the very
10
end.
yards.
At the very end of the track, it was like it dried up.
Yeah, and we were like, man, did he go this way? And then it was like, no, he had to go this way.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we dipped underneath the creek, there was a bunch of low-hanging branches that was super thick.
Yeah.
Dipped underneath them, and as soon as I came up, I had my cell phone as a light,
Yeah.
which, you think is bright in your house, but it's not bright in the woods.
No.
And as soon as I dipped up and I started standing up, I said to Caleb, holy fuck, there he is.
Yeah. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a long night at that point. It went from good to bad to good, but then shit, we lost blood. Which way is he going? The snow's pounding, but it worked out.
Yeah, in reality, he went 50 yards.
Yeah, maybe not even.
Yeah.
If you would look at it later, in the daylight, if we ever when we go back this summer, it's going to be that's not far at all.
Yeah.
No.
20,
It
39.
He ran to the perfect spot and died next to a trail.
Oh.
He was only 40 yards from
The
trail.
recovery team was not complaining.
No.
When the recovery
the
pulled up.
the heated cab gator that pulled up.
Shout out Gator
Yep.
for
Yeah,
the
John
XUV.
Yep.
Tyler Arter's Ag Pro.
Yeah, right. It worked out very well. I had to fight with the YouTube gods for this video because there was so much blood at the impact site, or at the death site where he actually died. Or when we were doing the interview afterwards, when the buck was dead, just blood on everything.
Yeah.
And
Shame
YouTube
on you.
hammered me a bunch on it, but we ended up getting the kinks worked out, so we're good on that.
We sat down and did a brief interview, and it was
because we were waiting for these guys. At this point, we're not. Yeah, we're
it's
can't leave the woods
fuck,
now. We had
not-
no beer.
no beer, 900 yards from a truck.
Yeah,
It's
so far.
hammering snow, so we're just staying in the woods.
Yep.
So we do a brief interview. Gust of wind comes through at 30 miles an hour, blows our eyeballs out.
Yeah.
And then after that, they show up, and it was the perfect ambiance for a night. That's what made it.
Yep.
It's
If
cool.
only it was Friday night, not a Monday night.
Yeah, and it's cool to shoot
true.
big bucks, but when you get the boys out on a deer that's dead,
Yep.
snow's falling, it's fresh, you got the ambiance, Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
That's where it was at.
So we actually talked about this in the woods. I don't think it made it to a podcast or even on the video, but we talked about it in the woods a little bit when Isaac shot his buck. You shoot a buck in the morning and it's just laying there dead in the woods, and you go to recover it, it's just not the same because you have your whole day ahead of you still.
Yeah.
You got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, congrats on the buck, it's daylight out. It doesn't feel the same as when it's nighttime and you walk up and everyone's together and you're finding the buck. It just hits differently.
It's cooler when Luke shot his buck this year.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Because everybody's pulling for Luke to put one down.
Yeah.
So
and it was just recovering a giant in the woods in October. It was just fun,
that's what you dream of. But when Ryan shoots up a deer and he calls me, I'm like, this motherfucker.
He's standing over it. He's like, hey, look.
I already shot one, so it's sorry I don't have the same excitement.
Right.
But
Every time I call him, what'd you do?
Yeah.
How big is he?
Yeah.
You
You when you become to expect it, or
Right.
you've done it. Luke had a different feeling.
Yeah, he hadn't shot a buck with his bow in 10 years.
Yeah, so Luke shoots
Or
a buck,
maybe,
and
maybe
it's
a little bit less than that, maybe 7 or 8, but still, it was a big deal for Luke and for everyone involved. And then
yeah, because you pull for the dude, so
Yeah.
then it happens, and you're like, let's slam some beers and have some fun.
Yeah. Luke's recovery was perfect this year.
Yeah,
It was a
lot of fun.
what?
And Nick's recovery was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun, but there's always ones that you remember, when you kill Traveler.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
when Isaac finally.
That was all right.
When Isaac killed,
Yes.
when Luke killed, it's
Yep.
those are.
I wish
Those
you
are
could have
pretty
been there for the G2 with Tyler, because it was just it was the most Tyler thing ever. This is one of those daytime ones, but it was a wild goose chase gun season.
Yeah.
We tracked it miles. It was something,
Yeah, and yeah, it's.
You want to talk about one that we wish you were there for?
I know. I'll never live it down. I was watching football. I will never. Well, because you are. And the only reason I didn't go, we've talked about this before, but the only reason I didn't come was it's I'm getting text messages yeah, Ryan killed a giant, and it's no, it's literally dead. You can see it from his garage, it's just laying in the field dead. We're gonna drive up and go grab it, and then yeah, I should have just came out. I don't know why I did.
It's okay.
Well,
It's all right.
It was a mistake.
There's video evidence.
There was.
biggest rack and biggest balls.
Yeah, that deer had huge nuts. Your deer's nuts were like
If you listen
they
to
were
the
bigger
intro,
than average, but not massive.
Yeah, but you've been
Yeah.
blowing out of them for 2 months.
And then come to find out, like I just figured this out today. I was watching some old videos while I was working on stuff on my computer, just doing some YouTube stuff, and I found that I have a bunch of video of his buck from this summer, about a mile from where he killed it in a bean field, multiple days, just crushing beans. I got like as it progressed as he grew, and it was and where I was filming him is a spot where none of us can hunt. It's a mile from where he hunts. It's 2 miles from where I hunt, so it's like kind of just a good spot to film deer, but you don't know if you'll ever see those deer again. And then we got lucky, and this deer showed up, and he had spent his summer there.
Yeah, it's weird to be on that end of the spectrum,
right? Because that usually never happens to us.
Oh, it's usually $3 to $5 a year.
Yep.
You're on the opposite end.
Yep.
You know, you summer them, or you have them in October,
Yep.
and you get all excited, and you're like, I'm gonna make a play. Boom, dead.
Yep.
You know,
it's cool to have one move in like that. We ended up getting some pictures from a neighbor of him last year, and he definitely wasn't on the zoo last year at all. That we can like there might be a video or picture of him somewhere, but like he wasn't a regular if he was. And it's also interesting to note he looks a lot like when you first showed me pictures of the buck. I thought it might be the deer that I was kind of hunting this year, and then we find out that neighbor guy that's in between me and you, closer to you than me, he had both the deer I was hunting and the deer you killed together the last 2 years, like in October and November, and then so my deer disappeared, so we don't know if he's still alive or not. But the tall 10-point, but yeah,
it's weird how it works.
I'll take it any day. It was a
Fingers
great
crossed.
story. The video is live right now. I actually just put it up tonight, and the metrics are good. So YouTube hasn't come down and hammered it a third time. They did hammer it twice, but I got them to clear it, which is nice. They've actually cleared our last couple of videos with a manual review, so that's good.
Shout out YouTube.
You piece of
Yeah,
shit.
YouTube doesn't care about us at all.
Yeah.
They definitely do not care about us. But the beautiful chocolate horn buck, that's probably what we're going to call him. His antlers kept their color, so obviously that night he was soaking wet, covered in snow and blood and all that, and then we were kind of worried if they dried out, they might whiten up a little bit. And they did a little, but them antlers are the darkest ones I've ever seen on a deer up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It looks like a Canadian buck, just a heavy 10. No junk, heavy 10, chocolate antlers.
Well, and his
awesome.
His body, like, you couldn't. His
Oh,
body.
he had a chunk of backstrap missing, too.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about that part.
He had been injured previously, but
I think it was a shot. Like
shot.
someone like blew him high through the back.
Something happened to him, but his body.
Because it was on both sides, you know.
Yeah, but I didn't realize how big he was until I started skinning him. And I'm like, after I got him caped out, I was like, fuck, man.
He would have been awesome to see in October.
Oh, yeah, you've been an absolute toad.
And he still stunk. His tarsal stunk like piss.
Yeah.
He was obviously in the feeding pattern at that point. I mean, he's probably sniffing does and pushing him a little bit, but he was like, I'm feeding. Like, I need some food.
Yep.
He must have got, I'm assuming during gun season, he got pressured out of where he was, and that's why he, headed your way a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we're over an hour. What do you guys think for your first podcast? It's not so bad. Once you get going.
No, it's
and when you get like 2 or 3 more guys in here, like if you had Dylan here talking your ear off and shit, like it goes real quick and easy.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
It's not bad. It's like talking in a submarine.
Yeah.
It's weird how you can hear yourself talk. I can turn them down, but then like I like being able to hear our voices a little bit because it makes it. You can hear the imperfections if something's wrong. But
no, that's good.
But yeah, that's the Deer Shot podcast. That's episode 23.
Had to come on.
Yeah. You told me you told me if you killed a buck.
Well,
I wanted you and Gavin on at the same time.
Well, in fairness, Gavin shot a small buck. But,
Gavin did not shoot a small buck.
No, I had to come on because there's pressure from. I think I would have to say, how many episodes are you in?
This is 23.
23. I would say in 21 I've been brought up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, every one that I've been on. So there's like 2 or 3 that I was not a part of. Every episode that I've been on, at some point I bring up, we gotta get Nick on here because I haven't got Nick on here yet.
Yeah. And in 7 to 10 of those were.
I didn't want to pressure Ryan because you were not. When I approached you about it, you weren't. You were a little more apprehensive. You're like,
Listen,
I don't know, man.
I got driven here. I got drunk
wined
here.
Wined and dined.
Yeah, the Canadian had to come.
He brought margarita mix. It was wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's not so bad. We'll be out like in the summertime. It's fun because I'm looking forward to the off season because like during hunting season, it's actually hard to keep up with it, and because we got shit to do. We got to hunt. We got to do this. We got to do that. But like, man, June, July, August, let's be able to get on here and talk about all kinds of different stuff. Yeah. We're not gonna be huge tactic guys. Like some podcasts only talk about tactics. That gets boring. But there will be some we do. We are going to have tactic episodes.
Every tactic episode lands on crossbows.
Yeah,
corn pile.
we always end up in the same place.
I mean, it don't matter if you're in our region. Every tactic episodes land on. Oh, I hate crossbows. I hate corn piles.
Yep. That's just the way
Everyone.
it is. It'll be good to get. You'll have some good debates with Jay on that kind of stuff. It'll be fun.
It'll win you money. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the city.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the city, copping bucks that you found on Facebook. And
we're gonna
your wife's coworker and all that stuff.
We're definitely gonna talk about that on an upcoming podcast. That'll definitely ruffle some feathers.
Can't wait.
It'll be fun though. That'll be. I am looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to see what kind of reach it'll get and if there'll be a response, because I'm sure there will be.
Oh, there will be. Terry's listening.
Terry does listen. I guarantee you he's listening.
Shout out Terry.
So this is a Deer Shot podcast, episode 23, and we are out.
The shop is closed.
The shop.
Get a shot of these.
Yeah, when Joey was here a couple weeks ago, he made sure to end it with the shop.